The news that every fan was hoping to fear and certain fans didn't want to hear has emerged this evening that Semenyo, the hottest property in the Premier League forward position stakes, does in fact have a release clause. Details are yet to emerge on the specifics, but the silence speaks volumes. It suggests as much that there might be an Eze-style environment on the cards, and with it comes the potential for a massive bidding war that might emerge this January. In just 60 days' time, Semenyo may find himself at one of the following clubs: Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United. And as a personal Tottenham fan, I'm hoping it's this guy's club, Tottenham Hotspur. 5 teams all seeking and searching for that special extra ingredient in their firepower for the second half of the season from a player that is not currently part of the recipe that might steer players away from certain clubs because of their ties to other European football clubs that are currently participating in Europe. Guys, we're going to talk about it all right now on Sean Butler TV. Please smash the like button if you enjoy these updates. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Welcome to the channel, by the way, everyone. This channel's grown really, really quickly for the last couple of weeks. Everyone's I've been putting these videos out. Everyone seems to be enjoying them. I appreciate you. And I hope that you can appreciate me by smashing that sub. Guys, let's get into it, shall we? Let's start with just exactly what's happened, right? So the news broke on TalkSport yesterday that, in fact, Antoine Semenyo does indeed have a release clause that is worth noting. Let's start with the story. So I'm just picking one random article, but I could have chosen any one at all. Antoine Semenyo's suitors have been put on red alert by the emergence of a release clause in the new Bournemouth deal. The Ghana star has been one of the stars of the Premier League season so far, with 6 goals in his first 7 games plus 3 assists. Unbelievable. He's also 2-footed, can play on both sides. Versatility is, of course, the second best ability, and this guy is an output merchant. He was expected by many to leave the Cherries in the summer and was of significant interest to Tottenham, my club, and Manchester United, but he surprisingly signed a new 5-year contract with the South Coast side instead. Yet Sunsport understands Semenyo's fresh terms include a release clause, albeit the exact value is not clear. I'll be entirely honest, guys. I've seen over the last couple of weeks a lot of speculation regarding this release clause, and I've done videos on this. I was under the impression that the release clause that was touted a couple of weeks ago, that was coming from pretty relevant sources. I forget who it was entirely, but at the time I was like, are these guys that I usually have a lot of respect for, are they misreading here? Because the number was £70 million. The number was £70 million, which, if it's true that is the number that's now being sort of, the sort of needle is moving now to the fact that there was truth to it, because at the time I assumed that number was correlated to the previous contract, that when he signed the new contract it was removed, but it turns out that this particular contract, the new 5-year contract, does include a release clause. And people that I used to dismiss, now I'm thinking maybe they were right. £70 million. Well, that brings everybody back into the mix. Let's carry on with the story for 2 seconds, and then I'll get into the details. It will come as a boost to the club, to the clutch of clubs, keeping tabs on the former Bristol City man, who's valued at more than £75 million by his club. Semenyo joined Bournemouth from Bristol City in 2023. The winger has since amassed a total of 28 goals and 13 games, 41 GA in 97 appearances with the Cherries. But look, that's a semi-long story that's like the extrapolation and the amplification of those outputs is insane. Recent reports suggest that United used the same process on the forward as they did on the summer signings of Cunha and Brian Mbeumo in the most recent transfer market. The Manchester Giants told Bournemouth they would be willing to pay a maximum of £55 million for Semenyo. To help cement the switch from the Vitality Stadium to Old Trafford, United manager Amram and the player also went to dinner in London together at the end of last season. Anyway, let's get away from this, because I can't for a second believe that it would be Manchester United that would get this guy. If I'm entirely honest, as a Tottenham fan, knowing how much Tottenham Hotspur need a player like Semenyo, at the moment, our left wing, having seen the absence of Sonny, who's gone on to LAFC and smashed goals in and assist galore, congratulations to him. We thought we were getting someone in. We were looking at Savio. We were looking at players like Ademola Lookman, who, by the way, I still don't have a necessary problem with Tottenham or other clubs bringing him in. I think he'd be a wonderful asset to the Premier League, and probably at half the price. However, the argument that Semenyo was top choice, top level property for most people's ambitions. As a Tottenham fan, as much as I would love to have seen it, we're massively aware of the fact that the guy's an Arsenal fan. Now, Arsenal, in order to make this deal happen, would need to probably liquidate, and this January, if there was a deal to happen, have to find a new home for possibly Lissandro Trossard and Martinelli in order to finance the move, considering how much money they've spent in the summer. Manchester United, surely, as much as they would love to have a Semenyo, they have signed Cunha, who hasn't hit the ball out of the park since he's been there. They've signed Umbumo. They've signed also, of course, the big man from Germany who's yet to hit the ground running at all. Spent £200 million, give or take, on their three players, and for them to go and sign another left winger straight off the bat, or another winger, it would obviously demonstrate some level of acknowledged failure, maybe in one of those signings, which would be a madness, especially as, in my opinion, they still need to improve on their goalkeeper. Semi Lemons is not the guy for me. They still need to work on their back line, and they're also trying to, like, the non-stop reports regarding links to Carlos Baliba, for example, and others like Adam Wharton or Victor Frohold. For me, those sorts of stories suggest that Manchester United, surely their short-term interest has to be somewhere towards the middle, the defensive side of the middle, and at the back. At the same time, we're seeing links to new takeovers from the Finnish guy, the guy in Finland, the guy and the UAE stories, which I've spoken to you about previously. I can't imagine for the life of me, unless those sorts of things materialize in the very near future, that they would have the money, the finance, the liquidity to be able to facilitate something like that. Now, Liverpool going through the motions as well at the moment. But to me, with the amount of injury crises that they have at the football club, with the potential of, at least in the here and now, Soboslai maybe being injured, Konate's injury, Endo's injury, they're still trying to find out whether or not Frimpong is settling in. To me, Liverpool need to focus right now on getting some reinforcements at the back line, and they have spent a lot of money. They did recuperate a lot of money as well in the summer through their outgoings, but to spend another £70 million, even if this release fee clause is true, to spend another £70 million on another player in another position where they are already saturated in quality and value, but their real risk and their real threat to being able to sustain a defence of their Premier League title sits at the back. To me, scoring goals for Liverpool isn't a problem. Keeping the ball out the back of the net on the other side is. So I would almost say that this is a problem, that if Semenyo stays at Bournemouth for this January and sees out the season, then yes, in the summer, you might see teams like Manchester United, you might see teams like Liverpool come in. But in January, I just don't see it happening. There's other fish to fry, bigger fish to fry in the defensive framework of their football clubs. For Arsenal to make it happen immediately in January, I think they need to sell one or two players from their forward line to raise the finances and to create space in the squad. And so again, I find it a struggle to see all of that happening in the most complex of all the windows to do business. We know that Martinelli was subject to interest from teams like Bayern Munich in the summer, but they went in different directions to Luis Diaz. We know that Leandro Trossard has come out and spoken recently, very recently, about the suggestions that he was going to leave, and he was saying no, that was false. It was fake info. It was fake news. He's really happy. He's at the best form of his life. Yada yada yada. It will be interesting to see how that materializes. At Tottenham Hotspur, there's no doubt. Everybody knows. Everybody knows we're looking for a left winger. Everybody knows we have money to spend. Everybody knows we had £100 million dropped into the club last week. We took out a £98 million payday loan a few weeks earlier that is robbing Peter to pay Paul, is taking this money from the Macquarie Bank right now and we'll pay it back later based on guaranteed income. That surely suggests to you that Tottenham Hotspur have got a busy January ahead of us. And given the complexity, given the environment in which the likely competitors for Semenyo's signature, then maybe, just maybe, if there is in reality a £70 million release clause or something to that end that can be triggered, even if the numbers that were previously reported on Twitter are incorrect, if it's 80 million, even if it's 90 million, whatever, as the number goes up for what it's worth, I think it becomes less likely that the competitors jump in. But if there is a release clause that can be triggered this January, as early as this January, I genuinely think that Tottenham Hotspur might be able to make that deal happen. And the only concern then is whether or not Semenyo really wants to leave to join the arch rivals of his formerly stated favourite football club. What I'm terrified of happening, though, is something similar to the don't worry scenario that Eberechi, as I said, happened with him and Arteta. As he was about to join Tottenham Hotspur, he phoned up Arteta and said, is there no chance that you can't bring me to you guys rather than me going I'm going to join Tottenham? Can you not come in? And Arteta said, don't worry. And 24 hours later, he was an Arsenal player. I would hate that to happen. But you know what? Here's how I sleep easy at night knowing that it's still possible. It's that every single football player that is playing football for any club in the Premier League, they all grew up supporting somebody, and not all of them are playing for the football club that they support. So in reality, you hope that they have professionalism and that they are interested in the move. They want the step up to the Champions League and they want to join a team that has the most of the groundwork's done, most of the ability to offer these guys what they want. And at Semenyo, you have a situation. Here's the last part of the recipe why it makes sense. January is traditionally a very difficult place to do business anyway. It always has been. 31 days, difficult. It's a Mexican standoff most of the time. No one wants to shoot before someone else shoots. However, in the last 2 years, in the last year specifically, because of the reshaping of the Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League, for the vast majority of football clubs that are participating in that scenario, they are not clear. They are not sure on whether they are going to qualify into the later stage of those competitions until the latter stage of January. I think match week 8 doesn't happen until about the 24th or 25th of January. And so for all of the players that you might look at and say, and all the clubs that you want to engage with and say, I want your guy, any chance? What's the price? What's the motivation? Where are we at with that one? They'll say, we're not selling that player until we know that where we are in Europe. And that's why 75, 80% of all transfers happen after the final game week 8 of the European season. And that's why the vast majority of the transfers don't take place until the final days of the transfer window. In Bournemouth's case, in Semenyo's case, they're not in Europe. Semenyo doesn't have that concern. He's not cup tied. And so if there is truth to the fact that there is a release clause that can be activated as soon as January, and most of the other teams that are interested, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, maybe Man United, definitely, Chelsea, etc. If those guys don't have the readies, don't have the money, have to move players on, have other priorities, then maybe, just maybe, Tottenham Hotspur can find the way. I'm motivated by this news. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,